Welcome to Konoha Crush, a clandestine effort to exhaustively research and document events occurring in and around the village hidden in the leaves. I'm Ira.
I'm Gwen. Hey!
Hey, we're here again. It's another week. I didn't do fucking anything this week. I was in the void, and I'm kind of crawling out of the void like a little bit now. But I was in the void. I don't have anything to talk about from when I was in the void.
Yeah, I got my hands on Nona the Ninth, the book, the third one in the Locked Tomb series, like today as of the recording, so, I'm also in the void. Hi!
Okay. You can't talk about that right now. It just came out. You don't want to do any spoilies.
I mean, no spoilies, and also, I've barely read any of it.
Okay, so you don't have, an impression formed, really.
Yeah.
I'll probably check out it eventually. I might, wait a bit to see the vibe, but,
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely keep you, I'll let you know the vibe.
Okay, alright. Well, that's pretty good. I love hearing about this sort of thing from you.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, I mean, do we just get into it? This feels like such a short, pre-Naruto, thing, but, I don't know. What was they even fucking doing this last week? I was, staring at my computer and, having static play inside my brain. That's fucking nothing. You can't talk about that on a podcast. That's not interesting. That's not content.
Yeah, no way. Let's just get into it.
Okay, hell yeah.
Yeah. Episode 98. Tsunade's Warning. Ninja, no more. After a quick check-in with Hinata, Kiba, and Shino, we see Iruka dismiss class early. On the way home, Konohamaru sees his dead grandpa's stuff being moved out of his office by those two guys, Kotetsu and Izumo. He goes to stop them, but they explain that they need to make room for the new Hokage. Konohamaru doesn't want to believe it and storms off. He runs into Tsunade, and they each make a rough first impression before she gets pulled away on Hokage business. Naruto shows up, upset she hasn't visited anyone in the hospital yet, and Konohamaru learns that the mean lady he just met is the 5th Hokage. He doesn't take the news well. Naruto finally catches up to Tsunade and reminds her to go to the hospital.
Alright, so yeah, we've got kind of an interesting stretch of 3 episodes this week because this is a time where this is the first time where we really see the show beyond just stretching out a scene, adding some extra stuff. It's the stuff in these episodes is doing a lot to construct completely new connective tissue to expand out on just various character beats, trying to build a little more on the foundations that exist in the manga. Right, all the stuff with the other kids from the other teams and stuff is from the manga more or less in this episode, but everything with Konohamaru is totally new.
So the challenge pissing was in the manga?
Yeah, the challenge pissing is in the manga, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Kiba and Akamaru are jumping through the trees, and they're Kiba's going hey boy, you're pissing so good, and presumably Akamaru is doing, I mean, I guess Kiba isn't pissing, so he's complimenting Kiba on his pissing. I'm course correcting, I think I was about to say.
We don't know that Kiba wasn't pissing.
I guess we don't. I'd like to think that he wasn't. I'd like to believe.
I'm just saying, a big thing about, Kiba and Akamaru is that, the boy does what the dog does.
Okay. I mean, Shino's, trying to, collect bugs, because he's the bugs kid, obviously. And it keeps getting interrupted by Konohamaru. Not Konohamaru, Jesus Christ. They got the Maru in there, okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's Konohamaru's written on my screen so many fucking times right now. Akamaru's written on my screen 0 times.
Yeah, Konohamaru challenge pissing.
God, what the fuck was I even saying? Shino's bug collecting is interrupted by all the piss flying around, and he's kind of annoyed about that, and Hinata's just sort of watching all along. It's oh, it's so great that you got things you care about, Shino, you've got your bugs, and Akamaru has pissing, and Kiba has Akamaru's pissing. You've all got hobbies, and that's so awesome to me. And she thinks about what it would be like to have a hobby of her own someday. Which I guess mostly just means Like, I don't think Hinata gets a hobby. I don't think it's a direction for a character. I think it mostly means, like, oh, she's going to, like, commit more time to liking Naruto, I guess.
Can we talk about how fucking dire the character writing for the show is, for the girls? When, like, a thing a character says for real on the TV show is, wow, I wish I had interests.
I wish I liked anything or cared about anything. I mean, I guess I've been there, right? Like, I've been in moods like that, but I don't really think that's, like... You know, nobody's gonna go up to Hinata and it's like, oh, actually, you have all of these interests. She just doesn't have interests except for, like, a boy.
I'm Hinata. I like Naruto and being shy.
Well, she's kind of like moving out of the being shy fandom. She's looking for new environments to, you know, grow stronger in. But like, this is like a little bit later in the episode, but it's just sort of in terms of like, well, here's what people are doing elsewhere in the village. Neji is like standing in the woods and like counting birds that he's not looking at, and then he realizes he like failed to count all of the birds, which I think is like, I guess it's like foreshadowing of like, oh, the Byakugan's got like a blind spot that we like learn about later. And Ten comes up to him like, hey, Neji, like Tsunade is back, the awesome like the awesome like kunoichi that everybody loves, and Neji's like, I don't fucking care about that. Stop trying to talk to me about girls. You know how I feel about girls. I just don't give a shit.
Why are you telling me this? You know I don't like girls.
Like, we're like mostly joking about this. Like, Neji is actually saying this. We've got other people doing their misogyny later in this episode. That's much more tangible. You know, Irika is like teaching class to all of the ninja kids at the Ninja Academy. He has to like call class off early again. Konohamaru's just kind of like bummed out, and like Udon, who's like the snot kid, right? That's his name. Mm-hmm. He's also bummed out, and fucking Moegi's like, "What the fuck are you? Why are you sad? You guys fucking hate school. Cut it out. Be normal." Which is beautiful for her. I love that.
Yeah.
But you know, unfortunately, it doesn't really take. Konohamaru sees that like his like grandpa's things are like being taken out of his office. You know, we've got we had like a little bit of Konohamaru sadness earlier, but he like got over it back then, thinking about how like patriotic he is. But like, you know, it's come back with the force. You know how it is. Sometimes it's just it comes in phases. It's not totally. All at once process. So he's like pretty upset about that. And I'm like, okay, let's see where they're going with this. You know, I'm like willing to like, you know, if you're going to like expand out the section of the manga with like some Konohamaru stuff, I think that's fine. You know, the little bits of Konohamaru we have are like not like super grounded feeling, and I'm not opposed to getting some more character stuff with him. So he like runs off to like be mad about it, and like immediately runs into Tsunade's tits. Yay! The like construction of this scene is like so fucking tenuous to me, right? Because Konohamaru isn't at like running into tits height.
Yeah.
So he has to like presumably like jump up and latch onto her, which he is like has evidently done, but also like not know that he's done this to like create the like running into some boobs joke of this scene. You know, it's just trying too hard for some like. There's nothing of value in this. They're just really they're really reaching for it.
Really, really fucking reaching for it.
Tsunade like basically like walks off and calls Konohamaru like horny, and Konohamaru's like angry about it. It's like, how could you possibly call me horny? I'm sad actually. And it's just a fucking mess. Like it's a
fucking disaster.
It's like
like it doesn't make any fucking sense. First off.
Yeah, and it's just like it just feels like it's wildly derailing like whatever like the emotional tone was to like, you know, like
yeah, and like Konohamaru feeling the way he does about the situation doesn't change from like one bad like interaction with the actual woman, right? Like, like if she just was just like, who's this fucking kid? I'm busy. Like same shit, honestly.
Yeah, but that's less funny for everyone in the audience, and they like it less. But no, I mean, she walks off, and Konohamaru's like, I can't believe this. There's no way she's qualified to be a Hokage. He's like all pissed about it. Like Naruto doesn't really have the time to like hang around and like talk to Konoha right now because he needs to like drag Tsunade along to go to the hospital, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which he doesn't get to quite yet. Tsunade is like having kind of like a meeting with like the village elders, right, where they're like talking to her about all the, like ceremonial shit she's gonna have to go through, and she's like just super pissed about it. The main thing I'll talk about in this scene is that I really like Shizune here. I think Shizune is like a lot of fun in this episode in the sense that like we talked last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago because of the movie.
Yeah.
About like our like constructing understanding of like Shizune just being this person who like handles all the shit for Tsunade, like and just like goes around and kills debt collectors and stuff. I like that there's even if this is like probably not directly building on the sort of jokey understanding of Shizune we constructed, there's definitely a sense of like, okay, Shizune is like a person who has committed a lot of time to like helping Tsunade and like assisting her, and is like moving into this new like phase of what that means, and like doesn't really like know what that is. Like every time Tsunade is like kind of rude, she's like, oh shit, she's gonna get fired from being the president, I have to do something.
Yeah, like honestly, like I love Shizune like in this little stretch of episodes, and like I think I just like her a lot in general, just as a character.
Yeah,
like,
honestly,
like it wasn't something that I really like picked up on when I watched this the first time as like a child, but like she's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think especially like in these episodes, right? Like her presence like is both like I think fun and like I've got like her presence is both like fun on its own, but also like allows for more of Tsunade being like kind of like reckless and like wanting to blow off work and stuff. Like her being there allows like Tsunade to be in a position of like, oh yeah, she's a respectable leader, but also she still gets to be like fun in the ways that Tsunade can be fun.
Yeah.
Like I hope that continues, because like I was really like worried that like Tsunade would just get back here and it's like, okay, well she's not like a rowdy woman anymore who like likes to have fun and like fuck around.
Yeah.
And like I'm not gonna like get my hopes up too high about that like lasting forever, but like in these episodes, I think that like winds up carrying through a bunch.
Yeah, and like at the very least, these episodes like through this stretch of 3 episodes, right? She does like go from like, oh, I don't want to be fucking doing any of this, to like, okay, I'm gonna like actually put some work in, right? So at least it like smooths over that transition.
Yeah, and again, that is all like anime original shit.
Yeah.
Like Tsunade is basically not in the stuff that like is actually directly pulling from the manga, right? Like it's basically like Tsunade is basically not in the stuff that like is being directly pulled from the manga outside of like the few scenes where she like needs to be there. Which I guess we're getting like a little ahead of ourselves talking about that stuff, but like I was like pretty pleased with like that aspect of these episodes. Meanwhile, we're talking about how much we like Tsunade, but like Naruto like runs into Shikamaru outside of like the building where the Hokage's office is, right? And talks about how like Tsunade, who like walked past recently, is like going to be the new Hokage, and Shikamaru decides that he's just gonna like Konoha is being like kind of weird about Tsunade, and like we joked about Neji being like, I don't care about women. Shikamaru's like misogyny senses were tingling. Is like, oh shit, I need to like claim my place at the top of the leaderboards. I need to just start talking about how much I fucking hate girls and women and how they're all obnoxious and they annoy me and they only cause problems for me, and I'm fucking sick of them.
Yeah, like his dad has to rate a bit.
His dad is like, oh shit, like I don't like women that much, but like I feel like I fucked up by raising my kid to be this much of like a weirdo. Hey, Shikamaru, did you know that men only exist because women give birth to him? Which is like, okay, man, not not the sort of like, yeah, and he's also like, yeah, women, even if you hate them a lot, sometimes one can like you, and that can make you a better person. So not like particularly inspiring.
Yeah, he's like, it's very important that you respect women, son. Also, I hate my wife.
God. And Shikamaru just was like, why are you fucking telling me this? I know you hate your wife.
It's fucking awful.
Just like some, like, just like kind of insane out of nowhere, her like gender rearing its head to like terrorize the rest of the episode for no reason. Like, this came directly from the manga. This came straight from fucking Kishimoto, obviously. Because most of the time they're trying to do something. Like, this is just like Shikamaru shows up to be weird about women, and that's all that the scene achieves.
Yeah. It's like honestly impressive that this made it through like several like it made it through his editor when he was releasing the comic. You know? It made it through it made it all the way to the fucking anime.
You know, Naruto like runs off like before like most of the conversation. He's like, hey, Shikamaru, I've got shit to do. Remind me to like show off my cool new move later. Which is like another line from the manga. The anime adds a bit where Jiraiya's like, hey, Naruto, ninjas don't show off their moves, which like I have to take issue with because they had a whole tournament about how they show off their moves to everybody to like prove how strong their village is.
Yep.
It is at the very least at this phase of their lives, like part of their job. Anyway, that's like basically all I have to say about this half of the episode. If you're good to move on.
Yeah, alright. Tsunade shows up in Sasuke's room and heals his forehead so he wakes up. Naruto decides to give him and Sakura some space, and they head off to heal Kakashi and Lee. Tsunade tells Naruto to head out before seeing Lee. Naruto goes to see Iruka for ramen, and gets a lecture about how the leaf needs to appear strong. Tsunade looks over Lee and breaks it to him that in order to keep working as a shinobi, he needs an operation with a 50% chance of killing him. Lee needs some time alone to think.
Right, so Sakura has just been like full-time worrying in Sasuke's hospital room for like the entire last arc.
Oh yeah.
Hasn't been doing anything else. You know, Tsunade walks in and just like, oh wow, there's like flowers in here for multiple days. She must like just come in here every day and like sit here and be sad and worried. Which I guess is impressive to her or something. But she fixes Sasuke.
Funniest way possible. Yeah, let me activate my fucking magic healing glowy hand, touch the trauma boy's head to heal him from his trauma coma.
Nobody else can do this shit. Right? I've accepted that this is like true, right? But because so much of like what medical ninjutsu is not like particularly defined, it's like it doesn't necessarily tell you that like only she could do this, right? It's not like I guess I'm not like begging for like, okay, we need like another like more like powers explanations like lore. We need more like expedition jump chapters about this, but like
literally just the special glow hand that heals the boy.
Yeah.
From the like weirdly undefined trauma coma.
Mm-hmm.
Is so funny to me. Because like I mean, you know, just like the thing that Sasuke is supposed to be like unconscious about
is like reliving seeing his like parents die over and over again in front of him for like
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like yeah, hold on, let me heal his brain. All right, boy, you're better now.
She is here to she's like brought in like narratively to like fix this problem, but like not to do so in a way that like really gives us a clear understanding of like what exactly it is. And like, oh yeah, only Tsunade can fix it. She's the like
yeah, she used her like accelerated therapy technique.
Like Sasuke wakes up, he's still like very fucked up. He's like barely saying shit. And like Sakura rushes in and hugs him. And like there's this moment of like, oh, Naruto's like, yeah, I should give them space, or I'm gonna head out, right? But like it's not like they're having a moment, right? It's just like Sakura's like clinging to this like barely conscious kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, like I guess I can't really do anything here.
Let's go heal Kakashi.
Let's go heal Kakashi. This is like a touch like I really like. Like this is like a more like in the manga, this is like played completely straight. Like, oh, Naruto is actually being like kind of thoughtful here. You know, like Tsunade like has that moment. But like I really like how the anime just like kind of undercuts it. He's just like standing outside the door, like fucking like gesture to like move on because there's other people to heal.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cute. I like that Tsunade heals Kakashi and is really just like, hey, what the fuck, man? I thought you were supposed to be cool. It was just two guys. He's like, yeah, sorry. She wouldn't do this to anybody, but like, you know, when she can, I guess she's the sort of doctor who likes to just be mean to her patients.
Yeah, like honestly, fine, cool, love that for her. I think Tsunade should stay mean.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Tsunade should just be like kind of mean forever. Not like, you know, like thoughtless or whatever. Like, I mean, even in these episodes where like we have fun with like Tsunade being mean, like after this, but like when they go to like meet Rock Lee, right?
Yeah.
There's a bit where like, you know, she like sees Lee and like kind of has like a grasp of what the situation is. Like, hey, Naruto, I'm gonna like ask you to like leave. Like this conversation isn't one that like you get to be here for. Because like obviously like I know who you are. You're the kid who just like say some shit. Like that is an interaction that's like completely added for the anime. Also, like I think that like this episode isn't like the most of it, but like Tsunade definitely gets to be like a lot more proactive in like this situation.
Yeah.
In a way that I think does a lot for like making this all kind of come together.
Because like honestly, like she's really sweet with Lee. I love how she is like with like telling Naruto to like fucking get going and like just like how she's handling that whole situation. Like I think it's like genuinely very touching.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like I'm actually a little bit surprised that all of that was anime original. And then I thought about it and I thought, yeah, it makes sense that that's all anime original.
You're gonna fucking write Tsunade into manga? Like, ever again? Absolutely not.
No way, Jose.
I mean, there's like one other scene I'm thinking of, like in part 2, where like she gets like a little more writing, which is just like infamous in my mind. So we'll get to that eventually. Look forward to whatever that could be if you don't already know.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, Naruto it is able to take the hint. Like heads off, goes to like. I say he's able to take the hint, but also it's just kind of like, oh yeah, right, he did have plans with Eureka, so he goes off to like go get ramen with Eureka. They're just like kind of catching up a little bit, and then like Eureka goes into his whole thing about how like, yeah, I mean, like we're like really short on like manpower right now, but we can't let people know that. Everybody has to like go out and like work on missions, like harder than ever. Like like we can't do like our normal full team sizes a lot of the time because we're like so short on guys. Like obviously part of this is like kind of set up for the fact like, yeah, like the next. Like the next big arc is like a bunch of like kids going out on like a dangerous mission without like any adult supervising them, right?
Yeah, which like I don't know. I think that's like a fine way to like escalate the situation and like set that up after half the village is killed.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is not like me complaining about that fact by any means. I'm just like, just sort of like acknowledging that that's what it's doing. But I also like it as like a fairly like, yeah, okay, this makes sense that like this is what they would do, right? Like they need to like the sand isn't gonna fuck with them right now, but also there's like other villages and shit. All sorts of people who would love to be like, yeah, okay, hey, I hear the league's like super fucking weak right now because their president died. I also like that the fucking like Ichiraku ramen guy just like starts standing here being like, yeah, okay, I guess they're talking about this right in front of me.
He's just like silently nodding along like,
yep. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, like I guess sort of like everybody who is in the village is on some level. It's like they have to be like in the loop. Like obviously, that guy knows the Hokage is dead, but I have to wonder how often he's just like sitting here, being like, should I be hearing all this shit? Like, I mean, I guess it's fine. They're talking about it, but like, should I be hearing all this shit? This guy's got like some great fucking gossip that he can't ever tell anybody because then he would be executed.
God, I'm so sad we're not like real spies anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have opened a ramen shop.
People just say fucking anything in front of you.
Yeah. And I would have gotten to, like, run a ramen. That sounds fun.
It could be pretty fun, yeah. I'll like, just kind of fuck around in the back and not be that helpful, but, like, I'm hanging out with you.
Yeah. You could, like, I don't know, wipe stuff down.
Yeah, okay. What? What?
No, just nothing. Just,
What is it, Gwen?
No, we should just keep going. Alright, what the fuck were we talking about?
We're talking about like Naruto and Eureka getting ramen together, but like I'm pretty much done with that. We can like move on to like the last point for this episode.
Yeah.
Right. So it's back in like the hospital room with like Tsunade and Lee and Guy, and she's like, "Hey, shit's bad. There's like an operation I can do, but like it either works or he dies, and the odds are like 50%. And that's just not great." And she's like, is at the very least like ready to like be like, "Hey, like." I mean, like she like presents it like very straightforward. Like, hey, you should quit. Like, you shouldn't like have to put your life at risk for this, right? Like, there's other shit you can do with your life that doesn't like put you at a 50% chance of dying at age 13.
Yeah,
which like that makes like a lot of sense as like a stance for her to take, right?
Yeah, I mean, like generally speaking, as far as these things go for like Naruto characters, she seems to be like one of the people who is like most against the prospect of children dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, she's still like, it's still gonna happen just because of like what her job is, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's still gonna like make child soldiers do stuff, but like,
mm-hmm.
It just comes with the territory.
Yeah, like in the manga, like this scene with her is like basically her last intersection with the plot. With this plot until like Lee gets surgery.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, just kind of like, because I'm just kind of like gesturing it forward a bit. Do we want to like move on to the next episode?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Episode 99. The Will of Fire Still Burns. Naruto runs into Lee and tells him he hopes he can get back into fighting shape soon. Moegi and Udon come running up to tell Naruto that Konohamaru barricaded himself in the Hokage's office. Tsunade almost has Kotetsu and Izumo barge in there and get his ass when Naruto shows up, begging to let him handle it. Tsunade gives Naruto until the end of the day. Naruto doesn't have any luck, and Lee skips out on rehab to dwell on his options. Sakura shows up with some flowers and tells Lee about how good a doctor Tsunade is. Shizune sits Tsunade down in a tea house to get some work done, and they go over the roster of Leaf Shinobi. Naruto tries sexy jutsu on a child and gets tear gassed.
Right. Okay, so, before that shit you said at the end of your summary,
Uh-huh.
this episode starts off with, like, obviously, Rock Lee is, like, still feeling pretty bummed, still trying to figure out, like, what he wants to do. And so, throughout this episode, every time somebody talks to him, they just say the worst possible things and make him sadder.
Honestly, Rock Lee is taking this so fucking well. He's being so fucking brave right now.
He's, like, not crying even a little bit when, like, Naruto runs up to him and is like, "Hey, Rock Lee, oh man, I bet Tsunade's gonna heal you so good. You better, like, hurry up and heal fast, because every moment you're not healed, you're letting down the village, because, like, oh man, we need to try so hard right now. Everybody needs to work extra hard right now." Just, like, zero fucking tact at all. I'm, like, kind of two minds about, like, Naruto's characterization in this episode, because I feel like a lot of times, it kind of leans a little bit too much into, like, here's Naruto, it's like the hot-headed dumb comedy kid that doesn't really, like, latch on to, like, the parts of him that make him, like, more than just that, right? But I also think there's, like, some things that, like are like almost kind of cute. Like, I do sort of like the fact that, like, he has, like, heard this thing about the state of the leaf from, like, one of his dads, and now he's just sort of, like, running around and telling everybody, like, oh man, I know this, like, super, like, important stuff about, like, how the leaf is, and I believe in all this, and I'm super motivated, and I want everybody else to be motivated too, right?
Yeah. This episode has very, like, earlier Naruto characterization.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. Just, like, a lot of the ways that Naruto comes off this episode is very, like, I don't know how to describe it other than, like, earlier Naruto, right? Like,
yeah, no, that's something like how I feel like it, where it's, like, kind of operating off of, like, at its worst, it's kind of operating off of, like, oh yeah, here's where we were, like, back when this was, like, during those, like, kind of dire early episodes where it was, like, sort of a gag comic, but, like, not very good at it.
Yeah,
and, like, because, like,
I mean, you can tell it's leading on that because Naruto does fucking sexy jutsu.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh. This is, like, a little later in like, this section of the episode, but I'm talking about now just because it's kind of, like, bundled together with the other thing we're talking about. Like, Sakura also goes to talk to Lee, and, that she like, brings him flowers, because, like, she was, like, going to go visit him in the hospital. Not, like, Tsunade was here. She was going to be, like, she had flowers for him, and, like, there's a great moment, like, Lee sees this, like, he's like super happy about it, and then, like, Sakura immediately does, like, basically the exact same shit that Naruto does, although it's, like, a little less, like, maybe, like, a little less digging his knife in, but she's like, oh yeah, you gotta go to Tsunade, she'll heal you so good, it's gonna be awesome for you. And he's just like, this terrible fucking whiplash that Rock Lee has to go through. Everybody's like, yeah, just go get healed a little bit easy, you're not at risk of dying at all, it's great. Poor fucking kid.
I want to hold him.
Yeah.
Does anyone hug these kids?
Probably not. Right? I think Guy hugs Lee sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Kakashi is not a hugger.
Oh, Kakashi is not a hugger. And I guess Sakura has parents.
Yeah, but, like, they're not allowed to exist on, like, this, like, they're not, like, allowed to exist on screen, so, like, they can't hug her. Like, they don't have, like, a physical presence.
Yeah, they don't fucking matter.
Meanwhile, Konohamaru, like was mentioned in the summary, has barricaded himself in the Hokage's office. He has, he's, like, piled up all the furniture. He's made a bunch of, like, wire traps. He has, like, activated, like, real paper bombs.
Yeah.
Maybe raising some questions about how easy it is for children to get access to, like, real explosives in the Leaf, but it's fine. They gotta learn. They gotta have hands-on experience with, like, bombs. So it's the risks outweigh the benefits outweigh the risks, obviously.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like the actual like paper bombs like Konohamaru has set up in here, like they don't really like play into most of the episodes. Like it's much more like Konohamaru has like comedy traps set up, where he's got like smoke bombs or like pans that fall on people's heads, because obviously the stakes of this like anime original episode aren't going to be about like, oh shit, is Konohamaru going to like blow up himself at the Hokage's office? Would be a very different episode.
Very different.
Tsunade shows up to Izumo and Kotetsu and like Shizune like standing outside of her office, and she's like, what's going on here? Why does this matter? And then like, the honorable grandson has locked himself in the room, and like Tsunade's like, yeah, I'm also the grandson of a Hokage. Just fucking kick him out. we both got important dead grandpas. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, who fucking cares?
It's just not important. But like, fortunately for her, Naruto shows up and is like, don't worry, I can fix this. I can like get Konohamaru out of there. And she like seeing the opportunity to like just go fuck work for the day. He's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, just finish this up by tonight. And I'll see you later. Just walks out. Hero,
king
champion.
shit.
Absolutely. Yeah, we get into the like, okay, Naruto is going to try and get Konohamaru out of the room, and like this stuff is what I was talking about largely when I said like sometimes this like falls back into like early Naruto characterization, right, where he's like, oh, Konohamaru, I'll go and buy ramen for you, which is like not there's like, you know, there's no
like Naruto is a very he is someone who is just like kind of like a stupid reckless dumbass, but also is like pretty like emotionally intelligent and is like able to like reach out and like meet someone where they're at, like feelings wise.
Yeah, and like he sort of even does that later in this episode, but because there's like this plot about Konohamaru like being locked in the room right now, he can't do that until later. So he's just sort of like running down his list of like other like comedy traits where it's like, oh, he likes ramen, like Naruto likes ramen a lot, so he'll like offer Konohamaru ramen, even though Konohamaru doesn't care about ramen in the same way he does. So it's not like a motivating thing to him. He'll do like sexy jutsu to like try and get Konohamaru to come out of the room to look at boobs or whatever, and it's like,
yeah, Konohamaru can't even see him.
Yeah, right. And also, like, if Konohamaru like even humoring the notion that this is a thing that could work, if Konohamaru wanted to look at boobs so bad, he also knows sexy jutsu. So like, who even gives a shit?
Yeah,
it's just like it is like, you know, I mean, essentially there's like joke scenes, but the jokes aren't that good. So it's just kind of like, well, there's the plot of this episode that we're just not really like allowed to progress at all. But like we keep cutting back to it because we got to fill time, and it's just pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
But the other half of this, like the other part of this, I want to liking a lot more, which is where you know, Tsunade is like walking off out of the, like, you know, she's like convinced she's successfully like avoided work for the day. She's like, yeah, walking around the village and like, oh god damn it, this place fucking sucks. There's no bars open right now. I can't gamble anywhere. Fuck, I guess I know what my first order of business is once I'm actually able to do any fucking work. She like specifically was like, yeah, this place is fucking boring, just like the third Hokage, which is like great. I love that she's just like showing up here and immediately disrespecting the dead. Especially that guy. Beautiful.
Yeah, I love her so much here.
And she's carrying out like a big stack of books, but like, okay, but like you should do your job, maybe. Like she's just so desperate to like make this work, right? Like it's obviously this is like a very like potentially like stable and good situation for her. So she wants to make it work, but like she doesn't really have a great idea what to do. So she's just kind of like pursuing Tsunade and be like, okay, but like, you know, maybe we can sit down somewhere and, you know, you can look over all of these, like, you can look over like the roster of like Leaf Ninja. It'll be good. You know, it's important. It's great. I just I think stuff is like really charming, like really characterful for like these two characters, right? It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, like that kind of like continues right into the start of the next segment. So you just want to like move on there and talk about it more later?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Tsunade looks over Lee's team info and needs to take a walk. She finds Lee on a bridge plucking a flower she loves me style about the surgery. Naruto's about to use the Rasengan on the door when Tsunade casually walks in and no-sells all of Konohamaru's traps to get a book from the office. Naruto takes Konohamaru to visit Hiruzen's grave and talk to him about why he's acting this way. Konohamaru's worried with his grandpa dead he won't be special anymore, and everyone will forget about how cool a ninja his grandpa was. Naruto takes Konohamaru to go talk to Tsunade so she can dissuade his worries. They overhear her talking to Shizune about her duty to help Lee. Konohamaru is satisfied with that.
Right. So I guess like the first thing that I want to talk about before we get into like the the like narrative content of the scene with like Tsunade and Shizune at the start here.
Yeah.
Is that these books full of like the Leafs ninja roster are formatted exactly like Kabuto's ninja info cards, which is like it's just like very funny to me because it means that like either like Kabuto, like his ninja info cards aren't like so much information that he's collected, so much as they're just like printouts that are like slightly inconvenient to use, or the Leaf was like, hey, we need to like make a lot of like new like documents because a bunch of people died and shit. We probably have to start learning some teams, and like there's this fucking kid in the tuning exams, and he had some like cool cards that like had all of our guys' stats on them. Maybe we could make the books like that.
Both possibilities are so fucking good.
Right. And like these are all like fully like bound books and stuff, but they're like, yeah, here's like the current stats of these ninjas, including like how many missions they've been on, which is just like so fucking granular for things you have in like books that you are binding.
Right.
Like, just tremendously wasteful. They need to like reprint these entire fucking things on a like basically like a weekly basis.
Right, like these should be binders.
Yeah, they should be binders. Like, you know, she's gonna just like so I just kind of like she's like paging through the books and be like, oh yeah, I remember this fucking kid. So that's what the team that she's like running right now is like, and like, you know, she's got this sort of like vaguely like personally interested, but like not that professional attitude about it. And like Susan keeps being like, oh, I like look at these team stats. This is like a really well balanced team. We got to talk about this, right? Just it's like very like different approach to these things that I like. Again, I think it's like pretty characterful. You know, like she like slides a book that has like here's like guys team stats, and there's like Rock Lee on the page, and she's like, oh shit, I guess there's like something I'm like kind of like invested in, so I'm gonna like go and see what I can do about this. You know, or like, I guess she's like immediately like that directly invested about it. She like walks off to be like, you know, just like think about some shit, and like runs into Lee again, and it's like, okay, well maybe maybe I gotta like handle this in my own way, right?
Yeah.
Naruto like starts yelling at Konohamaru for like not being like patriotic enough to like stop like locking himself in the room, right? Like it's like, oh, you know, we all have to like work so hard, extra hard right now. You know, you can't just be like locking yourself in the Hokage's office. Like you got to be like doing your best for the village. But like this isn't the thing that means anything to Konohamaru because like all the kid has right now is like class that gets canceled every day. He's not like he's like 8 or whatever. He's not doing missions.
He's not even a fucking like Genin yet, right? Like he doesn't. He's not even. He doesn't even have a fucking headband. He can't do shit. He's still learning how to fucking like throw a shuriken good.
Yeah. And Naruto's like, well, fuck you, because you're disrespecting our fucking great nation. I'm gonna blow open this door with a Rasengan. And so I was like, hey, chill. Like, fucking pulls him back. You know, she shows up here, just like breaks open the door. Like stamps on all the paper bombs. Fucking punches the boulder that Konohamaru's like trying to drop on her from the sky.
The fucking boulder.
It's pretty good. Like just like fucking like bulldozing all over these like booby traps, like varyingly like comedic and serious nature, like and all the same way. Like walks up to a bookshelf, like pull a book off, and everybody who's watching is like, oh shit, she's gonna like crush Konohamaru's skull like a grape.
Everybody was watching, waiting for this kid to die.
But she just takes the book and leaves.
Wordlessly. It's amazing.
It's great. And Konohamaru is like gonna just like barricade the room again while everybody's like watching. So like he just kind of goes off and like goes to have a talk with Naruto. And like so you know, Naruto and Konohamaru are like off at like the monument for like the dead ninja, right? And you know, they have like an actual conversation that like I think there's like some pretty like solid stuff in here, right? Like there's some stuff that's like genuinely kind of sweet. But it's also like this sort of feels like the full extent of what this should have been, right? Like there's no real like sense of continuity between like Naruto being dumb guy, like jokey, doesn't understand anybody's emotions stuff earlier, and like Naruto being like kind of clumsily trying to like offer support to Konohamaru, right? Like there's even a point where like he brings up the same like, oh, you know, everybody needs to like work really hard in the Leaf right now thing, right? That he brought up earlier. But like rather than it being this like point of like Naruto being super angry about something. It's like this thing that Konohamaru just kind of like is like, yeah, somebody just told you that shit. Like whatever. Like
Yeah,
you're just repeating stuff somebody else. You're just repeating stuff that Eureka told you.
Yeah, which is like honestly still fucking good.
Yeah, it's like I got that fucking speech too. Like whatever, man. You seem like basically the same words. Like because Naruto has like his sort of like reflective like, oh, I have this like serious understanding of the world thing, like push back. He just kind of like talks to him, and like Konohamaru's like position here is like, I don't know. I think it's like kind of real. It's like this really solid like, oh, here's a kid who's like processing grief for like the first time, right? Like the specific way in which Konohamaru is like, oh yeah, I mean, I just feel like everybody's gonna like forget about and stop caring about like this person that died because it feels like I'm the only person who's still sad about it is like so fucking real to me. Like,
yeah.
Like I have like a memory of like being a kid and being at a funeral and being like confused and mad that like nobody else was like crying as much as I was like visibly, right? Like I wasn't seeing other people being sad. I was just seeing them like have normal conversations or whatever. And I was like, what the fuck is this about? Like nobody even gives a shit, right? Like which was like obviously like a fucking stupid like self-absorbed kid perspective, right? But it's like very, it feels like very like immediately real and like well and like yeah, this is what kids are like. Like it scales back all like the anime comedy stuff to be like, yeah, here's like a solid character beat.
Yeah.
And, like Naruto doesn't really have any like great resolutions to this. You know, he's gonna be like, okay, well maybe we'll just go and talk to Tsunade and have her promise to not make the village any different, which is like very funny thing to say. To be like, yeah, okay, here we've got our new leader. We're gonna like just go and see if we can like have her make a personal promise to you to enact no policy changes.
Which, I'm glad. I'm glad it worked out otherwise because she would have said no, get out of here. What are you? What? Why?
What are you talking about? She's always been like looking all over for Tsunade. She like finds her in like a eventually find her. She's like all freaked out. She's like, oh my god, she just like ran off. She's not doing any work. She's gonna get fucking fired from being the president. And like runs into her and is like Tsunade just like hunched over a book and like looking at it and like doing like studying and shit. And she's like talking about how, Kabuto had his like regeneration technique, right? And she like wants to figure out a way to like use healing jutsu to like activate that in somebody else so they'll like recover their body better like during the like surgical process or whatever, right?
Yeah.
To like potentially like mitigate the risks of it, which I think is like, it's obviously all like fake shit, but I think it's like a pretty like satisfying like, oh yeah, that's like a way of like combining some information we know to like try and make a way to like make this better, right? And because like Tsunade is like personally like trying to figure this out, she has this like much more direct and like motivated and like personally involved like presence in this like ongoing story with like Lee and stuff, right? Like I think that's pretty good, but it's pretty clear that on like the visual level they don't really know how to like represent the research that she's doing. So like basically every time she's talking about this, she just sort of is looking at like a musculature diagram and then like superimposing a Lee over it in her mind and you're like, yeah, I bet this kid's got all of those muscles.
We see that visual so much and it's always so fucking funny.
I bet Lee is a normal human with a normal human body. This is the breakthrough I've been needing.
Wait, if I just imagine that scary little man inside of Rock Lee.
Oh my god.
It all makes sense now.
Like it's so weird how much of her study is like just looking at like how is like the human like muscles laid out, because presumably she knows this already. Like because that's just stuff they have books about. Like she could have fucking written those books.
Yeah, I mean like as far as we know, she did.
Mm-hmm. Like it's not like it breaks the like narrative for me or anything. It's just very silly.
Yeah, it's just funny.
But yeah, she's like so surprised to like see her being like so diligent, and she's like, well, yeah, I'm the fifth Hokage. It's just what I gotta do. And like Konohamaru like has like been looking for Tsunade and like managed to get close enough to overhear this. And he's like, oh my god, my grandpa once said he was the third Hokage. Maybe this is fine after all.
Yeah, all she needed to do was say, I'm the fifth Hokage.
He's like, oh, okay, so she's not trying to be the third Hokage too. Okay. It's like kind of an arbitrary thing that like brings like him some measure of peace with it, but also like that's also, I mean, that's kind of how it is sometimes.
Yeah, right. Because like, I mean, like we joke about how it was like presented or whatever, but like Konohamaru overhearing her like have that resolve and like understand that there's like a duty to withhold makes him realize it's just like this is like a job that needs to be done.
Right, like she's not trying to like be my grandpa. She's trying to be like the next person who has this job that's like important to people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. And so it makes him realize that he was acting maybe a little bit silly. He's just like, and you know, he's just like, no, I don't need to go talk to her. This is fine.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like pretty all right. You know, that I had a lot of my complaints with the first half of this episode, but I think like
yeah, totally.
it like wraps up like pretty nicely. You know, it's got some good character stuff in it, and it works pretty well on the whole. Do we want to get into our next episode?
Yeah, let's get into the next one. Episode 100.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Episode 100!
Oh my god, we did it!
Yeah! Okay. Episode 100. Sensei and Student. The Bond of the Shinobi. Rock Lee dwells on his decision as Tsunade pores over medical texts to figure out a way to make the surgery safer. Lee remembers the first time he met Guy and how inspired he was by his confidence. Guy interrupts his reminiscing to talk to Lee about skipping his rehabilitation. Rock Lee talks about his dreams of becoming a great ninja, and how pivotal Guy was in him believing he could actually do it. Rock Lee breaks down about how none of it matters now, and that even if he believes in himself and works hard, nothing's going to change the outcome.
Right. So before we get like into the events of this one, I want to touch on how so in addition to these episodes, like adding a bunch more connective tissue, adding a bunch of stuff with Tsunade, they also like pull this stuff with Rock Lee and Guy like from like farther ahead in the manga than we are otherwise to like tie it in more directly, right? Like at the time these scenes are happening, like the Sound Four have already showed up in the village and have been like talking to Sasuke and be like, "Hey, fuck off with us."
Okay.
Yeah, and I think this decision like makes sense on some level just because like it makes the timeline of like when Lee shows up in that arc a little less immediately like, oh shit, like Rock Lee had the surgery and then like fucking ran out of the operating room immediately. Mm-hmm. Like especially given that we have like an extra arc in the anime between like that and like this.
Yeah, and like it makes sense for it to be happening now too, right? Like this is where they're at right now upon hearing that news, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know, like it feels strange that Guy would like let Lee dwell on that shit for that much longer.
Yeah, and like also because we're about to like after this episode go into a stretch of like we have like 2 weeks of like anime original stuff, like 2 weeks for our podcast, which is like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense to like resolve this particular like lingering dramatic concern rather than just like leaving it hanging in the air while like we went off and did some other bullshit. So I think it's like a smart decision on a lot of levels.
Totally. So Rock Lee goes back to the school.
Yeah.
To like hang out on the same like balcony, where like they had where like Guy's team with Neji and Tenten like had their first like little get together.
Yeah.
Does he do this often? Because Iruka was just like, "Hey Lee."
Right, yeah, like Iruka who like just finished up like teaching his class, and then is like, you know, to give like a bit of a nod to the last episode, he's like, "Oh wow, it's nice that Konohamaru isn't sad anymore." And he's like looks up the doors like, "Oh hey Lee," right? And like it's not like Konohamaru was Lee's teacher at the academy, right? Like we see like a few flashbacks to Lee's academy days here.
Yeah,
but like I guess so I guess this is just like Lee's like primarily like wallowing spot, and he's been doing a lot of that lately. So
yeah, it makes sense.
Iruka sees him come by a bunch, and you know, I bet Naruto's like talked to Iruka about Rock Lee. You know, they're like hanging out from time to time. You know, they're getting ramen together.
Yeah.
But you know, he goes up to the roof just to kind of like think about various events in his past. You know, he thinks about the first time he met Guy. Like he's at like training in front of the academy, right? And Guy comes up to him and is like, "Hey kid, I think you're cool actually. Keep it up." Which in my mind I like to think is like very shortly after the flashback we saw like around the like Gaara and Rock Lee fight, where Kakashi like was like looking at Rock Lee and be like, "Hey, Guy, that kid's a lot like you." Yeah, I like to imagine this was like moments later where he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna go talk to that kid. I'm gonna tell him he's awesome because he's like me, who is awesome.
Yeah, like 4 minutes tops.
Yeah.
Right?
Everyone just like being mean to that kid, and then like fucked off, and like he just like went back to like doing like punch drills. The guy's like, okay, all right, I'm gonna get in there. And then he like moves on to like remembering when like his team first formed, and like when he was like telling his dream to like he was like telling his dream to Guy, which is like a scene we saw some of earlier, but we get like some extra Neji being a shithead here.
Yeah.
Where he's like, just because you're the first person to ever graduate the academy without being able to use ninjutsu or genjutsu doesn't mean you're good. Which, tenuous argument, I feel like that's probably a pretty impressive feat. But it also like made me wonder a bit, like, because all of the all of the like academy graduation tests we see or whatever are about like, oh, you got to like prove that you can do this jutsu, right? Like in like the first chapter or like first episode of Naruto, we see like, yeah, to graduate you need to be able to do like the normal clone jutsu, right?
Yeah.
I am curious, like what exactly like Lee's graduation like meant and entailed, and like how much of that was like Guy being like, hey, I think I can like do something with this kid. And this is like not necessarily like I think it's like completely supported by the text, but sometimes you want to just like expand something out in your head a little bit, right? Like it's a thing that like makes sense to me, especially because it was like Erika's like specific interest in Naruto that like allowed him to graduate. Like you can make some exceptions sometimes, and I have to wonder if Guy was like a guy who's like sitting back and like being able to like make it happen, like actually give this kid a chance that he wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, like I think that makes total sense, right? Because like special exceptions would have had to been made, right? Like we just know that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is directly addressed that special exceptions were made, right? Like, and I think it is like very likely that Guy had a hand in that, right?
Yeah,
especially because he ended up in Guy's squad, right? Like, like that's no like coincidence. That's no accident.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't think they assign any squads like totally like coincidentally or like accidentally. Like they assign squads based on like, that like for the same reason Sasuke is in Kakashi's squad.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like Guy is a person who can use like ninjutsu, but like he usually doesn't. So he's the really the only person who's got like a shot, like actually teaching Lee enough to like make this work.
Yeah.
But also, like, I really like the idea of like him taking that like very immediate like interest in like taking action to like give this kid a shot, because I think it's like both sweet and like pretty consistent with a lot of stuff we see in the rest of this episode with Guy.
Yeah.
Like Rockley's just like sort of like sitting there like thinking about like all the stuff that's happened. Like Guy shows up and like interrupts him and is like, hey, what's going on? Like you were on rehab today? Like that's like pretty surprising for you. It seemed like something's up. I want to come talk to you. God, I feel so like so much of like the Rock Lee stuff, like where he's like just kind of like breaking down and crying in this part of the episode is like just like kind of heartbreaking, where he's like, because he is this person who's like so much like, yeah, everything I do is like been done in the name of like I'll like work really hard and like make it happen myself, because like there's not a lot of other people that believe in me, but like I know I can just keep trying. It's like in the face of something that's just like, yeah, this is in somebody else's hands and it's like kind of up to chance. Like the like being confronted with that so directly and that being like so fucking scary to him is like it really really works, and it's like
I want to hold this kid.
It's just sad. It's like it's sad to see him feeling this. It's sad to see him going through this.
Yeah. God damn.
Did you have more to say about this half of the episode?
No, not really.
Okay.
Guy tells him the only way to get past this is to resolve himself and make a decision. Lee asks if he should give up on his dreams, and Guy tells him that giving up on his dreams will only cause him more suffering, and encourages him to get the surgery. Lee remembers the rock, paper, scissors game Guy lost against Kakashi. Guy made a promise to himself that if he lost, he'd walk 500 laps around the village on his hands. Guy explains to a younger Lee that making up rules and challenges for yourself helps you take things seriously and get stronger from your punishments. Might Guy promises Lee that if he gets the surgery and it doesn't go well, he'll die alongside Rock Lee. Tsunade has her inauguration after staying up all night studying to bump Lee's chance of survival up to 58%.
Okay. The first big thing I want to talk about here is like I find myself feeling like in such like a weird and kind of conflicted way about like how Guy just kind of goes like, hey Lee, like you should have the surgery, like I know who you are, like because like we're very similar. Like you're not a person who's going to like be okay with just like giving up on your dreams like that. You should like go forward with that. And it's not like even on a level like, oh, is Guy doing the right thing here? Like, I mean, obviously within the narrative of like Naruto, it's like, yeah, the surgery is going to happen. There's not going to be like this isn't going to be a story about like, oh shit, Rock Lee died in surgery because Guy made the wrong choice, and then like Guy also has to die. I guess I don't know. Like that's just not what this is doing. That's not what this comic is.
Right.
Right. Like it's in a sense it's like very much in like the sort of tradition where like I feel like in a lot of in a lot of like like Japanese children's media, there'll be like a one-off episode of like, oh, there's like this kid who is like worried about going in and getting a surgery, and like the protagonist has to like do something to like help and like encourage them to like have the bravery to go through with it, like. Right, like it's very much in that tradition, right? It's just because like this is a comic that has like these bigger stakes. It's like, oh shit, there's like a 50% chance of dying, right? So it's like a bigger deal, right? It's like tied into like all of this like stuff about being like action guys that fight.
Yeah,
but like it does leave me in like kind of a weird space of like, and this is not like a fucking like condemnation of Guy or whatever, but like this winds up being this winds up like putting it in kind of like a weird space in regards to like disability, right? Where like nobody is imagining a future for Lee where he is like able to just like live a life even though he's disabled, right? Like nobody's like imagining a world in which like he can just like in which that can be like a thing for him, right? Like that's just not it's just completely off the table, right? And I can like make justifications for that in my head where I'm like, oh, I can gesture toward the idea of like, yeah, like the Leaf like is not a place that would be very accommodating to this because it has a very utilitarian view of like a lot of the people that live in it, and like if Lee couldn't like provide the services of like like being able to fight, he was already like super ostracized and like made fun of and like just kind of treated like shit, and if he was just like put back into that position, it would be like really negative for him, and it would just be like like regardless of anything else, it would just be like a it wouldn't be like a place that afforded him the opportunity to have that. But also there's like kind of me like making justifications on behalf of the show, and like there's sort of an extent to which I think like intentional or not, the show is like sort of putting forward a narrative of like the stakes of this aren't like, oh, is Rock Lee going to like accept living this way or like try for this risky thing. It's like, is Rock Lee going to like die or survive the surgery once he's like able to be encouraged to do that? And also like we already said, he's not going to die because that's just not the story this is.
Yeah.
But like it just kind of like leaves it in this weird place where there's like kind of a bad taste in my mouth about like it just doesn't really like construct the possibility of like that of like choosing to live with the disability being like an okay thing. And like there's like maybe stuff like way later in Naruto that like kind of intenses this, right? Like by the time of like Boruto, Guy is like just like in a wheelchair and he's like he's like living like a happy and like fulfilled life, and like that's, but also that's like so far away, and like also on the other side of like some stuff with Guy that I think like makes a lot of the Lee stuff worse if you like take it into consideration when you're thinking about all of this. So it's like hard for me to be like, oh, this is like a broader, more considered thing. It's just kind of like a weird bit of the texture here that I like feel like I had to touch on, even if I do wind up liking a lot of the character stuff here.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, you basically covered.
Like that is just like sort of the thing I felt like I had to say, because like beyond that, I think like the like Guy and Lee stuff in this like episode is like genuinely very sweet.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's like very like emotional. It's like very like they're like real.
Right. Like if you take it for granted that like Guy is right when he knows that like Lee would not be able to handle giving up on his dreams in this way, right? Like,
and like yeah. Sorry, go on.
Right, and it's not just like the show not wanting to like entertain the fact that like the kid might just be disabled for the rest of his life. Like Guy's commitment here to the Lee situation is like actually super super sweet.
Yeah, right. Like I mean, this like I really like the flashback stuff once we like get back to like, yeah, here's the time where like Kakashi and Guy played this game of rock paper scissors, which also I think is like a really funny beat where like I love the element of like Guy and Kakashi's rivalry where Kakashi doesn't care that much, so like when he's like able to choose to like not do that much. He'll be like, yeah, okay, let's play fucking rock, paper, scissors. And like he has this like sort of goofy justification of like, oh, luck is part of your skill, and also like it's good for like reading opponents' moves to be able to like try and predict what they're about to do. He's just like so full of shit. And also like he's the guy in this fucking competition with the Sharingan, so like not really fair to Guy. But Guy's like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess I can't turn this down for my rival, and it does his like ridiculous commitment to like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do 500 laps around the village on my hands. But like the way he talks about like like making those sort of stuff like self-imposed rules is like a commitment to yourself to like be ready to like move forward like as soon as you lose, to like be able to like if there's the possibility of like you losing, you need to like be ready to like address that and move that forward. Is like it is a thing that I think is like very charming in the context of this sort of like action manga, right?
Yeah.
And I think like seeing this moment and like seeing the way that like Lee constantly like earlier in the show would be like making these like ridiculous like, oh, if I like catch all of these leaves before they hit the ground, maybe Sakura will fall in love with me, like all of these like promises to himself that he's like kind of taken to this like goofy extreme because he's a kid and doesn't really have like because he's a kid, he's kind of like conflated the like cause and effect of this in a weird way where he's like, yeah, I can make whatever I want happen by like completing these challenges I set for myself. Is like very cute.
Yeah.
When Lee like decides to like follow along with Guy while he's doing his like ridiculous handstand training, I love so much that Guy is like, yeah, okay, but I'm gonna make I'm gonna make a separate rule for myself where like if you can't keep up with me, I am going to like commit to like raising you for the rest of my life. Where it's just like like seeing that this kid is doing something was like where like Guy like, yeah, this was probably like a bad idea on my part. Like this is not like a very like this kid definitely can't do it, so I'm gonna like make sure that he has an out where he doesn't feel like he's disappointed in me by like not doing something ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's just very sweet. Like he's just like you get the sense of like how he saw this kid who was like struggling and was like, okay, I'm gonna like commit to like being the fucking dad for this kid in a way that we like don't really see like anywhere else. Even though we have a lot of like, oh, here's the guys who are Naruto's dad or whatever, and here's the like way that like a team leader is like sort of a parental figure, right? Like he has like really stepped in and like did
yeah, I mean like definitely right now my guy is the best dad in Naruto.
Yeah,
and like there like you said, there is some later stuff with my guy and like further context that like muddies that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But like what we have here that isn't like 600 chapters later, not 600 chapters later, like 500 chapters later in the manga is like, I mean, it's completely fucking disconnected from that, and it's just like he's just there for the kid, and it's like
it's awesome.
It's awesome. You love to see it. Like his like vow of like, hey, if you die in surgery, I'll die too. Is like such a like, it's kind of like this ridiculous over the top thing, but it's also like, I don't know, it winds up making sense within the emotional context of the scene. I think Guy is like such a like at this point like such a great like expression of the stuff we've talked about where like nobody in like none of the adults in Naruto know how to like give any real help to any of these kids in a way that isn't gonna like kind of fuck them up, but also they still gotta try, right? Like
yeah,
I was just like surprised how like fully won over I was by this stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, Guy's like a cool dude. He's like trying to be a nice dad. He's like, because I remember being like pretty down on a lot of the Guy stuff the last time I went through Naruto, but now I'm just like, I'm on board.
Yeah, remember you gave me shit for being a Guy fan?
Yeah, I guess I was fucking wrong. But like in fairness, some of the stuff later is like the stuff later I'm thinking about I think is really fucking bad. So like,
yeah, and I just didn't watch that part.
Yeah, so it's not for us to talk about in several years. Like right now, this guy gets a fucking stamp of approval. I'm pretty happy with that. I enjoyed these episodes a lot. It was like a nice. It was like, oh sorry, go on. What?
No, I was just gonna say, you know what? Right now, Guy is the coolest guy in Naruto.
Yeah, okay. I had a great time with these episodes. It was just like a really nice like untensing after like a couple of weeks of being kind of frustrated with the show, where it's like, yeah, it's kind of like a slower hangout thing for a bit, and like it managed to invest in the characters in some ways that really work for me, like both like in places that originate from the manga and places that are like built for the anime. It was just it was like a really really pleasant surprise for me, like when I was like sitting down like last week and being like kind of out of it and like kind of dreading it, and to just like have a good time with Naruto.
Yeah. What are we watching next week?
Next week, we are watching episodes 101, 102, and 103 of Naruto.
Nice. And hey, if you can't wait for the next episode, you can check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/Konoha Crush, all one word, Konoha Crush. Get access to episodes up to a week early for just $3 a month. And for $5, you can check out our bonus podcast, Narukai Uzumaki. We covered .hack recently, and now we're watching the episodes for the next one, which is going to be Danmachi, or God, what's the full title?
Is it wrong to pick up girls in the dungeon?
Yeah, is it wrong to pick up girls in the dungeon? Like, I knew it was something to that effect, just not necessarily the exact wording.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like, we can't exactly burn bonus pod and like talk about it yet, but you know, like I've seen a few of the episodes.
I have too.
We're gonna talk about it.
Hell yeah.
I also want to offer a special thanks to our Joining Tier patrons, Maple and Izzy.
I was going to say, actually, I haven't read them in a while, but you've already done it, so never mind.
Okay, well, you interrupted me, so if you want to.
No, I mean, okay, yeah.
Like, I would have to restart anyway, right?
Okay, right, sorry. Yeah, thanks to our Joining Tier patrons, Maple and Izzy, future Jinchuriki of the Six-Tailed Beast. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Any images we talk about during the podcast can be found on our Twitter, twitter.com/Konoha Crush.
Yeah, not for this episode, though. We didn't talk about any fucking images.
I mean, maybe the one where it's just like the Rock Lee overlay.
Okay, yeah, maybe we could post that one.
We have a Tumblr now, too. KonohaCrushcast.tumblr.com. I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/GuinevereTeef, GuinevereTeef. I stream a lot of like art, Minecraft sometimes, Minecraft hardcore. So if I die for real. And on Fridays, Ira and I are playing through Elden Ring with the Seamless Co-op mod. So if you want to come check us out, you know where to find me. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I feel like basically all of your plugs are all the plugs I would have, right? So like...
Uh-huh. All right, well, hey, thanks for listening. And remember, there's no such thing as filler.